So we are going to go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to our evening parent forum. Thank you so much for joining us. And before we begin, we have a couple of just housekeeping items that we want you to be aware of. For your information, this webinar will be recorded and it will be shared with you via email, most likely tomorrow. The presentation portion will last around 25 to 30 minutes. And then we will save about 30 minutes at the end for your questions. So we have also tried to answer many of the questions throughout this presentation that we've seen on social media. But as we near the end of the presentation, if you have any unanswered questions, please put them in the Q&A box at the very bottom of your computer screen. Okay, now that that is out of the way, welcome everyone. My name is Lanny Davis-Frecker. I'm president and CEO of Julie Billiart Schools. And today we'll be talking about the strategies and the options for a safe return to opening Julie Billiart Schools. We are about 6 months into 2020 and it feels as if it's been about 3 years. We have literally learned something new every single day. And we want to thank you for continuing to support us and trust us and be patient with us as we plan for this fall. Please know that today we will talk about our current plans, but with the nature of this pandemic and like you've seen, things can change rapidly. We have had extensive conversations with the Cuyahoga County Board of Health, and they have talked about things changing by the hour. So please know that we are being flexible and as nimble as possible. So we appreciate your patience and your trust as we navigate this very unfamiliar time. So just to give you an idea of what we'll be discussing today, we're going to cover our guiding principles. We're going to review the 2 learning models for the fall, and mostly take your questions and gather feedback from you. As a reminder to those who are just joining us, you can enter questions at the end of the presentation into the Q&A box found at the bottom of your screen. We will try to answer as many of the questions as possible at the end of the presentation. So before we begin, I want to introduce you to our COVID-19 response team that has been integral during this time. This team has been meeting daily since almost April, and we discuss and we plan for the safest and most student-centered approaches to reopening school. Our input comes from parents, from faculty, from staff, community guidelines, health officials, and government recommendations and guidelines. So like I said, I'm Lanny Davis-Frecker. I'm honored to bring this team together and to help facilitate these discussions. Our first member is Mrs. Jody Johnston. She is our J.B. Lyndhurst principal, and she will be helping us today at the end of our presentation with the Q&A portion.
Hi everyone, hope you're having a wonderful evening and thank you for attending this forum.
Jason Weinich is our JB Akron principal. He's also going to be helping us with the Q&A at the end of this presentation. But both Jason and Jody are former teachers and parents, and they have helped us make difficult decisions that not only support our parents and our students, but also our faculty and staff.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening. We hope that all your questions are answered this evening.
Mrs. Judy Kreger is our Chief Financial Officer. She's been instrumental in helping us find funding for needed PPE, for new positions within our budget, and she really does bring a critical financial and operational eye to the team. Judy, you are muted. We also have Mrs. Ann Jared. She's our Director of Advancement and helps us find unique solutions to the constant COVID-19 challenges.
Thank you all for being here tonight and taking the time to share with us what we're going to be doing in the fall.
Samantha Evers is our newest member of our team. She will be the principal of our third school, and she is a former special ed teacher and is learning about our processes through this group.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here with us this evening.
Michelle Skoletsky is our HR manager, and she really helps us to put in place new protocols for our faculty and our staff.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here.
And last but certainly not least, we have Samantha Boschel, who is our Director of Marketing and Communications. She's really been the one creating the beautiful surveys, emails, communications for our parents, families, and faculty and staff.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're not sick of hearing from me, but thanks for being on tonight.
So just personally, a huge thank you to this group. It's been a joy to work with them, and they love your kids, and I'm honored that we have the chance to further our good work. So through all of our discussions and plans, we keep these guiding principles really in the forefront of our mind. I'm not going to read all of them to you, but know that the health and the safety of our students, our faculty, and our staff continues to come first through both of these learning options. We're also concerned with the quality of our education, the social and emotional health of our students, and the operational viability of these options. Another slide that I won't read to you, but this can give you an idea of some of the stages that we have gone through in our planning process. It's really crazy to think that this started only 5 months ago. In March, we were required to move into distance learning, and we learned a great deal from that experience, and so did our students. Since then, we've been meeting daily. We've been surveying our parents to better understand how we can safely bring kids back and offer a stronger distance learning option for families who need it. So this really is the bulk of our presentation and brings us to the 2 learning options. We're offering option 1, which you'll see here, which is our in-person 5 days a week option. Option 2 is a virtual education 5 days a week. We know that some public schools are offering blended approaches where kids are in the building some days and at home other days. We're not offering that because, number 1, in our parent survey, you overwhelmingly told us that that approach would not be conducive to your lifestyle and would be difficult. Number 2, we don't have to. Because of our small class ratios, the number of our students, and the ample space in both of our campuses, we can absolutely have all the kids in the building while safely social distancing. Let's talk a little bit more about option 1. Some of the considerations for this option are that most of our parents said that they want to send their kids back to school. We're also hearing from the American Academy of Pediatrics that kids should return to school if at all possible. Again, we're able to accommodate this safely, and we're committed to meeting and often exceeding all the CDC recommendations. If you look on the right side over here under option 1, you will see some different elements. I won't go through all of these, but know that this option isn't much different from a regular school year in terms of what happens inside the classroom. The big difference are keeping your kids safe. We are requiring masks or facial shields for our faculty and staff, and we are strongly recommending them in grades 3 through 8. Masks are recommended, but we simply know that not every child can wear a mask. Our teachers will work to destigmatize the wearing or not wearing of masks so that all are accepted. And we ask for your understanding of some of the sensory needs of our kids that may prevent them from wearing a mask. We're sanitizing high-touch areas every few hours and doing deep cleans of the buildings each night. One thing we do want to make clear that is if you select option 1, but someone in your household is required to quarantine because they have contracted COVID-19 or they have been asked to quarantine, option 2 will become available. Otherwise, we expect the families to stick with the option that they choose for at least a quarter. Some other expectations for option 1 are outlined on this slide. Again, you can read through this on your own, but I do want to call to your attention a few of the critical items here. 1, some of our parents have asked us how we will be grouping the kids. We're going to use both classrooms, 2 for each grade level, and group the kids in small cohorts of 10 or less. We will reduce the switching of classes and have teachers switch oftentimes rather than the kids switching. We will be grouping the kids based on ability over anything else, like wearing a mask or gender. We want to do this to stay in line with our educational model and meet the needs of our kids, because with our safety protocols, we know we can do this safely. Number 2, our faculty and staff already have so much that they are responsible for, not just educating our kids, but now they have to keep them social distanced, they have to wipe down the surfaces, etc., etc. So please be as understanding and patient with them as possible. Number 3, our administration is working to support faculty behind the scenes. One way we do this is to create and monitor health and safety protocols on a daily basis. One of those protocols is limiting visitors to the building. To keep everyone safe, especially during the fall, as we're seeing COVID-19 cases increase, we will be suspending parent and visitor access to the building to keep everyone safe. Here are just a couple of the images of how we are able to meet the social distancing guidelines in our classrooms at both campuses. In addition to this, we will be staggering arrival and dismissal times, having lunch in the classroom, and putting in place one-way hallways and visual cues to remind our students and our faculty and staff of social distancing. Option 2 really came about because we had a number of parents that have extenuating circumstances and they need their kids home for the health and the safety of the people in their household. If you're interested in this option, please listen carefully as we review some of the considerations and the expectations. Number 1, please remember that we really want your kids back in the classroom. Research and regression data tells us that it's best for our kids and their types of needs. Number 2, virtual learning is temporary. At some point, we may consider making this a long-term option, but for right now, we're only able to offer this to current families for a quarter at a time. Because this virus and all of the implications change so quickly, we may not only offer virtual learning through the fall, or as long as the changing situation requires us to do so. Number 3, we do think that virtual learning may be more successful for some of our older students whose parents are able to make sure that they're logging on and who are available to help with questions and assignments throughout the school day. Just like our regular in-person education, we need parent participation in order for the kids' education to be successful. A couple other points. Option 2 is not the same as it was in the spring. Students will be watching webcam streams of what's going on in the classroom and will be expected to follow along. We've also invested in a virtual learning specialist who will check in with the kids in the afternoon to make sure that they are clear on assignments and getting what they need out of virtual learning. However, our classroom teacher's main responsibility will still be the students in the classroom. Lastly, if you select option 2, we ask that you remain in this option for at least the first quarter. You will not be able to switch to in-person learning until October at the earliest. Before choosing option 2, please read through some of these expectations. Know that our faculty and staff will support you in either option, but that one of the expectations is that students follow a regular school schedule. They are expected to be virtually present for the full school day. This next slide and the following slide are really high-level comparisons of the two options. The two things that I want to stress here are that the start date for both options is August 25th, 2020. Students must be available for all subjects throughout the entire school day. This allows us to reach the learning goals and expectations that make our JB model so unique. You'll see in this slide that the tuition is the same for both options. Really, this is because that the students are receiving the same amount of instructional, intervention, and therapy under both options. Before we get into our question and answer, I want to pause on a few of these frequently asked questions that we have seen over the past couple of months. This is not a full extensive list, but we do want to respect your time this evening and not spend time answering questions that have already been answered in either the email you received, these frequently asked questions section of our website, or on social media. For example, we've received quite a few questions about masks. Students are not required to wear masks, but we highly recommend them in grades 3 through 8. We will help accommodate and destigmatize masks if you choose to send one for your child. For the next couple of moments, I'm going to let you review these for just a few minutes. If you still have questions afterwards, please add them into the Q&A portion of the bottom of your screen. We will begin answering questions from the chat in about 2 minutes. Okay, at this time, I am going to turn the presentation over to our principals, Jason and Jody, who will be reading the questions from the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. If your question is not answered today, please email it to your principal directly. Any of these new questions will be added to the frequently asked questions section of our website, as well as our communications. So Jason and Jody.
Okay, so the first question is, what type of medical background and or training does your COVID-19 team possess? Where are you receiving the information with which to base your curriculum? So none of us have, I don't think any of us have medical backgrounds, but I know that Jason and I have been working, the diocese has had weekly meetings. Our COVID team has also had weekly meetings. We've been working in close contact with the Cuyahoga County Board of Health. We did that with opening our camp to make sure that we had everything in place and all of the protocols in place. So we're really getting them from the CDC website. They have the opening and the expectations and requirements for opening of schools, the Cuyahoga County Board of Health, and then the diocese has brought people in also to kind of talk with all of the principals. Oh, Jason, you're muted. Sorry.
Thank you. The next question that we have states, how do you plan on presenting and explaining the difference in the atmosphere to the students without causing any anxiety? Certainly, as we go into the beginning of this next school year, we know from a student standpoint that there are going to be a number of concerns from the students with the new type of environment, and atmosphere that the students are going to be faced with. This is no different than many other social situations that our students are faced with throughout the course of a school day or daily life. And so we recognize that this is something that we're going to need to dedicate time, energy, and intervention towards. So you can certainly expect that our intervention specialists, as well as our speech pathologists and our therapists, will be working with our students to lower the anxiety level, help them understand this is a new norm for the next little while, and helping them cope with understanding what the procedures are going to look like and feel like. At the beginning of this upcoming school year, we're going to be dedicating an enormous amount of time in supporting our students in this area. So you can certainly expect that. The second part of this question is, what do you have in place to enforce the new rules and regulations so that the students fully understand the concept of social distancing and safety? So when we get into this upcoming school year, there's going to be a number of new changes for the students. Things such as the desks being 6 feet apart inside the classroom, to social distancing during recess time, to taking bathroom breaks, one student at a time. These are all procedures and expectations that are going to have to be introduced to the students at the very start of the school year and continue to be reinforced by the teachers in the classrooms as well as the therapists. It's something that we're going to have to dedicate time and energy with our students every morning of the school day, providing those reminders of what those expectations are going to be for each and every one of the students. The social distancing aspect is going to be critical to ensure that we keep a safe environment as we head into the fall and winter. And so it's going to be important that we continue to communicate to the students what that social distancing is going to look like and feel like. But then we're also going to put some emphasis on you as the parent to continue to communicate that to your child as well, to support us in the school environment.
Next question. I see that there will be staggered arrival and dismissal for children. For families with multiple children in different grades, will JB coordinate the same arrival and dismissal time for that particular family? So I think this is why having this forum is kind of a good thing, because we aren't necessarily having completely different staggered arrival or dismissal times. So because of the way our students kind of come in anyhow, there's not a large group of students trying to enter or leave the building. So we will continue to do our regular arrival time where the kids are coming, whether it's by bus or by car. And then at dismissal, we will be announcing names over the PA system or through Google Chat in order to allow the students to kind of leave the school building a little bit more staggered in that sense. But there isn't necessarily going to be completely different arrival or dismissal times for the school building.
The next question that we have is, if masks are not an option, would you consider or present another option of a face shield? Yes, absolutely. Certainly, masks are going to be, certainly recommended for all of our students. Masks are going to be required for our teachers as well. But we do look at face shields as another option, and you're going to see that option being utilized by our teachers and staff as well. That is going to be an option that's going to be very important for our teachers and staff to be able to effectively teach within the classroom setting. And so that is going to be an option that would be available to the students as well, if that is something that the student is going to be more comfortable with.
Next question, will water fountains be utilized? If so, do you have a plan in place regarding the upkeep of sterilization? So at the Lyndhurst campus, because we do have our Beyond Camp, we were able to get adaptations like that go on top of the drinking fountain to make it a water bottle filling station. And those water bottles, it's completely touchless. So the students just have to put their water bottle underneath. It doesn't touch the back of the water fountain at all. It fills up the water bottle, and then they're able to kind of walk away from the water bottle filling station. So we've been utilizing those at camp. We haven't noticed an issue with kids putting their hands on the drinking fountains. So I think those will be a good option for us to use. Regardless, we will be cleaning many areas of the building a number of times during the day just because they are touch surfaces or flat surfaces.
The next question we have is, what happens if a teacher is exposed or tests positive to COVID? Will the entire school close? In this type of situation, we will be working very closely with the health departments for Cuyahoga and Summit County. We have been in close contact with the health departments at this point to help us better understand what the procedures and expectations are that the health department is going to be putting on schools as we open up the schools in the fall time. And so if there is a case, the responsibility is put on the health department to make the determinations of who should be quarantined during those times. And so we do expect the health department to communicate directly with the school to help make that determination and understand who it is that was in close contact with the teacher or students, and so that way they can take the most appropriate procedures in terms of identifying who should be quarantined.
Next question. Again, it was if the drop-off or pickup times will be staggered. So the school day beginning and end time will still be the same, but the morning drop-off typically has been very staggered in the sense that it's between like 7:45 and 8 o'clock. And then during dismissal, we'll again be announcing the names. I know last year in Lyndhurst, we were in the gym all together during dismissal. We will not be doing that. They will be in their classrooms. Their names will be put up on Google Chat. So that will allow a little bit of a lag time in between students leaving their classroom and walking out of the building.
The next question we have is, will you be following the Governor DeWine's alert statuses? The answer is yes. We certainly know that, as we all know, when, the state of Ohio is taking a very county by county approach right now in terms of understanding and evaluating the COVID situation. So certainly, as we look ahead and go forward into the fall, we will be paying very close attention to what those alerts are and what does that mean specifically for each.
Next question. From my experience in public school, parents do send their kids to school even when they are sick. Will JB be taking extra precautions, whether it's a cold, flu, etc., and remove a child from the classroom if they believe them to be sick? Unfortunately, that is not just a public school issue. That does happen in all schools. We do ask parents not to send their child to school if they are running a fever unless they can go 24 hours without Tylenol or Motrin or a fever-reducing medicine. We do have a health aide at school, so typically just like we do now, if we see that the student has a runny nose or seems to be lethargic, or if the teacher notices that they're just not acting the way they normally act, we will be able to send them down to the clinic so that they can have their temperature taken, and we can just kind of ask them questions and see how they're doing. If we do feel that they need to be sent home, we will have, if it's COVID type symptoms, we will have a separate area where they can be with a staff member until the parents are able to pick them up. I know previously we had sent home, before the end of last year, before we closed, a flyer that kind of talked about the symptoms of a cold and the symptoms of a flu. So we'll make sure that we get those out to parents again. But it will just be, we're trusting in parents to make sure that when they send their kids to school, that they're not given the fever-reducing medicine and that they are healthy. But we will do what we can in the building so that if they are, sneezing or coughing or complaining about a sore throat or just not acting kind of like they normally do, to send them down to the clinic so that the health aide can look at them and then determine if they need to be sent home.
The next question we have is, what are the staggered drop-off and pickup times going to be? So as we continue to go into the fall here, there are a number of details that the COVID team is working through. So as of right now, we are still working on some of the details that go into the fall of next school year. You can certainly expect that there will be communications coming out for both campuses, Lyndhurst and Akron, that would identify the specific pickup and drop-off times for each individual grade levels. You can expect those communications to continue to come out as we head into the later half of July and the beginning of August.
Next question. We saw that shutdown due to COVID would be discussed at the time it occurs with health department. Shouldn't a shutdown plan be in place prior to school starting? We do have a shutdown plan in place in the sense that we know that if we do have to shut down, that we are able to quickly turn to an all virtual learning experience. At that time, it kind of depends on what the shutdown looks like. Teachers, if they're able to be in the building, then they would be in the building teaching and live streaming home to the students. If they're not able to be in the building, then we will switch to something similar to what we were doing in the spring, where they're recording lessons or having live lessons and working throughout the day with the students. I think one of the differences between the spring and the fall will definitely be the fact that we learned a lot as to what our teachers are capable of doing and what the expectations would be. When we mentioned the fact that it would be a shutdown discussed at the time with the health department, as of now, based on our conversations with Cuyahoga County Board of Health, they do not see shutdowns happening in the future. They know that it's important for the students to be in school, and they feel that as long as we're following the hand washing, the masks, the social distancing, that we should help to prevent that spread. But if we do need to close, that is the plan, is that we will then turn to a full virtual learning experience for the students.
Next question is, will parents be able to select a preferred drop-off pickup time? So when we share our details regarding the staggered dismissal and pickup, morning drop-off and dismissal pickup, things are going to be broken down by grade levels. The one thing to keep in mind, though, is we are already a smaller school in nature, and so with pickup and drop-off procedures, you can expect that that duration of time that we're going to be staggering students is not going to be dramatic. It is going to be a smaller slot of time. So you're not going to expect too much of a difference in terms of what will be considered as the norm for pickup and drop off for a JV student.
All right, next question. What about specials? Will the groups be small? Will there be gym in small groups? So as of right now, our specials, the groups are still fairly small, and the rooms that they're in would be able to be social distanced while they're in the groups. We do know that there may need to be some changes in regards to art, since they wouldn't be able to share supplies, or with music not being able to use some of the instruments. But our goal is to have the classes, have them participate in music, depending on the size of the groups that are in the building, possibly having the music teacher or the art teacher come into the classroom. But they will be able to have the specials, especially since our groups are already typically small. And then the gym is large enough that they will be able to be in there with some social distancing.
Next question we have is, how will recess be managed for each grade, and how will staff ensure children will sanitize hands? So first of all, in regards to recess, we will continue to hold recess within each individual grade bands. One of the key ideas will be the social distancing procedures. This is something that our teachers will be dedicating time and energy to our students from the very get-go to help them understand, what does social distancing mean? What does that look like? A perfect example of this is what is currently happening at Beyond Camp right now over at the Lyndhurst campus. Our camp counselors have been working tirelessly with our younger campers and helping them understand, what does social distancing look like? And they're using things such as hula hoops and whatnot to help demonstrate that. You're going to see something very similar at the start of this beginning of the school year as well, to truly help our students understand, what does that mean? When I go outside of recess and I'm going to play with my friends, what does that mean that I have to stay 6 feet apart? What does that mean when I have conversation? What does that group of students look and feel like? So there's going to be a lot of time and energy that our teachers are going to be dedicating to at the start of the year to help support that. Our playground is going to be sanitized after every recess period. You can expect that the entire playground area, as well as the swings, to be sanitized for the next group of recess. And then, how will staff ensure children will sanitize hands? So there's a couple things that go into this. Students are going to be washing their hands periodically throughout the course of the school day. There's a lot of key moments in time that they're going to be doing so, such as the arrival, before lunch, right after lunch, recess, and during dismissal as well. This is going to be an expectation and a procedure. If this is a procedure and an expectation that the student may not be able to grasp right away, that means that's something that we have to work on. We're going to be spending time with our students to help understand what that means. There's going to be sanitizing stations throughout the entire school, whether it's specifically in the classrooms or outside the classrooms as well. It's going to provide opportunities for students as well as staff to sanitize very frequently throughout the course of the day, whether they are transitioning from one classroom, a staff member transitioning from one classroom to another. You can expect that the appropriate means are in place to take care of that sanitizing.
Next question, how will bathroom breaks work? So typically right now, especially for the younger grades, bathroom breaks, they come and they sit out in the hallway and they go in one at a time. It would be very probably similar for the younger kids in doing that. So they'll be able to come out, and we do have little sit spots that are little circles that are throughout the hallways to make sure that they're staying socially distanced. They would each be able to go into the bathroom one-on-one and use the restroom. For the older kids, we will be making sure that there's certain times that they're able to use the restroom, but we will be expecting the kids to go to the bathroom one at a time. And then also the bathrooms will be cleaned periodically throughout the day. Both Mr. Bob and Danny and Akron are helping out and making sure that those are cleaned periodically throughout the day.
Next question is, what kind of strategies are you going to use to ensure social distancing in the classroom? Jody had just referenced some of the strategies that are going to be used for bathrooms. A very similar approach would be taken in the classroom as well. We know that with our younger students, it is going to take more effort to help demonstrate what social distancing means and feels like inside a classroom. So you can certainly expect that there's going to be a lot more visuals provided to the students to help demonstrate that, whether they are lining up for materials, whether they are participating in morning meeting. There's going to be very explicit visuals to help students understand where their body should be in space to demonstrate social distancing.
Next question, how are the teachers feeling about coming back? Have any teachers decided not to return? The teachers are the teachers are very excited to come back because we did miss the students in the spring. That was one of the hardest things that we had to deal with. And I know the teachers, when they were closing the classrooms, everything was kind of frozen on March 13th. And so it was very emotional for them to come back and not have the students or have that sense of closure, which I'm sure it was also difficult for your kids to kind of end the year in this, kind of not really ending it. The teachers are excited to come back. There's always, nervousness about what things are going to look like and how, we're going to work with the students. We've been very lucky in the fact that with Beyond Camp, we've been able to put a lot of the protocols and processes in place and make sure that what we are doing is going to be feasible to also apply to the school day. And we have not had any teachers decide not to return due to the COVID-19.
Our next question is, if the state of Ohio mandates masks, will there be a mask mandate for the school? And is there any possibility that masks will be mandated for students? So as we have gone through this transition period over the summer with our COVID team, a lot of the decisions, many of our decisions that have been made up to this point are based on the guidance that is provided from the state of Ohio. We continue to work very closely with the state of Ohio, but as well as the county health departments to understand what is it that we need to be doing as a school to ensure the safety of our students and staff, but what are those mandates as well. And whatever type of mandates are put in place from the health department, each individual county's health department, or the state of Ohio, that is certainly something that would be followed through our school here. As of right now, there is no mandate for students to wear masks in school as we head into the fall. We know at any point things can change through the state of Ohio, and we will be paying close attention to that. But we also know that we have a job to do in our school with our students to help instruct them and help academic, social, and emotional progress develop for our students. And we need to make sure that they are capable of doing so. And so while, yes, we are certainly recommending masks for all of our students, we know that there could be a possibility that there could be a student that may not be able to use a mask during instructional time.
Next question. I understand there is a time slot for lunches in the classroom, but how will recess work? So recess will look a little bit different in the fact that they will probably go out just by the grade and not by the grade band. So the recess times will not necessarily follow where they, have recess and then come in and eat lunch. So recesses will be staggered. They will still have a morning break and an afternoon break, but it will just look a little bit different so that we can make sure that there is a smaller group of students outside at recess at one time.
Our next question is, some schools are shutting down air conditioning to assist with ventilation, and is this a consideration for JB? Any other ventilation planning in place? So a couple things to know about our mechanics at the school. both at JB and Lyndhurst. The buildings are a little bit different, so different things apply for each individual campuses. Starting with the Akron campus, our heating system is a boiler system. So hot water is what provides our heat throughout the course of the entire building. So during any months of the school year where the building does require heat, there is no additional airflow that is going from classroom to classroom because it is a boiler system. When it comes to the air conditioning systems inside the classrooms, each individual classroom has its own air conditioning unit. And so there is no airflow from classroom to classroom at the Akron campus. At the Lyndhurst campus, things are a little bit different, slightly. The heating system is also a boiler system at the Lyndhurst campus. Hot water system. So that does replicate the Akron campus. In terms of air conditioning, they have a little bit of a split system throughout the campus. Some of the classrooms are controlled by a convection system, which is individual classroom units, while some of the areas are managed by an air handler that controls the rest of the school. Do know that the filtration system are cleaned and replaced on a regular basis to support all the sanitizing expectations that we need to have in place as a school.
One of the other things that we will be doing very quickly is when possible, we will be opening the windows when weather permits as much as possible to allow some of that fresh air into the school.
Next question. If a student doing in-person learning contracts COVID, are they required to do distance learning for the rest of the quarter, or can they return to school once well? So the understanding and the communications that we've had with the Cuyahoga County Board of Health is once a person has been tested and it's confirmed that they have COVID, the Board of Health contacts that person and then determines when they started to exhibit symptoms or when the test came back positive. So the quarantine that they have to, or isolation that they have to participate in is for 14 days, but it's 2 days before that positive test or 2 days before the symptoms started to be exhibited. So the students would just have to quarantine or isolate at home for those 14 days and then would be able to return to school. So they would, while they're home, they would be doing the distance learning and then they would be able to return to in-person.
Our next question is, if the school does shut down again and we move into online learning, will the expectation be 8 to 2:45 computer time, just like option 2? Please know that if the entire school is mandated to go into distance learning, our distance learning format does change. And it changes because of staffing purposes, where when we start the beginning of this upcoming school year, we're going to have staffing in place to support the students who are in school learning and staffing that is in place to support the distance learning students. As we go through the school year and if we're faced into a mandated shutdown, that means all of our staff and teachers are now dedicated towards distance learning. And that does change the format of distance learning for the students. You would expect more live lessons, with the students and this teacher throughout the course of the school day. There's a couple other scenarios that go along with this as well. If the general population is shut down, as well as daycares, we do have to have an understanding that our teachers and staff do have children as well. But if daycares are open at the same time, that does, again, modify what distance learning would be. And we would want to try to stay closely as possible to a typical school day. When we look at distance learning, whether it's option 2 or what we're looking at right now, or if the entire school goes to distance learning, one of the things that we will be stressing is a regular set schedule for our students. It is very important that our students continue to develop and grow. And part of that is going to be making
Jason, there was a little bit of a lag with the last part that you just said.
I apologize. Just referencing the idea that, if, one of the things that we want to make sure that we do is, making sure that we have a structure and routine in place for our students, whether it's option 2 or what we're looking at right now, or if the entire school is in distance learning.
Next question. No masks in close proximity is frequently observed with students in the classroom at Beyond Camp on Class Dojo. How will social distancing improve with the classroom during this school year? So like the school year, we are strongly suggesting that they wear masks, but it is not mandatory that they wear masks. We understand that some students have other health issues or sensory issues that prevent them from wearing masks. With Beyond Camp, I can say, just because I'm there every day with camp, there are times where when they're taking the picture, it's a quick, they want to, get closer to their friends and then kind of move away. But just like there is going to be kids that are excited about what they're doing, every time that we have students that are in a little bit closer proximity, there is a reminder or redirection for them to space out within the classroom or outside. The primary grades have the kids kind of carrying hula hoops around so that they can kind of see what that distance looks like. We have different things in the hallways for them to kind of assess where they're at. But it's one of those things where, because it starts at school and we can start out a little bit more direct approach or direct instruction, it'll be a little bit different than what it is at camp when this is so brand new to the kids that they're still learning how to manage their excitement and seeing each other after 5 or 6 months, and then understanding what those expectations are.
I'm not sure that your internet is working real well.
Question is, what about sterilization of returned library books and sterilizing communal objects?
So, Jason, if you're okay, I can answer that one since we have the school library. So what we're doing, and Mrs. Bennett has moved into the librarian literacy position at Lyndhurst, and so she is very on top of everything that needs to be done. So she has microfiber rags. She has bins that the kids will put the books in, and they will sit there for a day or two, and then she will wipe them off and move them to another area of the library, and then she'll wipe them off again and put them back into the shelves. Sterilization of communal objects, we're really going to cut down and avoid use of communal objects. There will be things like the countertops or different things that they'll be using, so those will be wiped down periodically throughout the day, and then our cleaning company comes in and is cleaning every day and also sterilizing with the electromagnetic cleaner. They've been doing that since the school was closed twice a week, and then it's been increased to the 5 days since camp has started. So we'll make sure that we're wiping down objects and things like that throughout the day, but there will be a reduction in things that are used between students in the classroom. Do you want me to answer the next one, Jason, since we have more busing than?
Yes, please do.
So do you know if there has been any changes or cancellations with buses coming from the many different districts? So right now, no. There was something that just came from the state superintendent from the Ohio Department of Education that said that school districts do still have to provide transportation for the non-public students. I think that the one thing that some of the districts have asked us, and Julie was going to put an email out, is if you received transportation last year, we did send names over, but it's going to be very important that you notify your district that you are still going to be expecting transportation so that they can make sure your child is on the transportation route.
I hope my connection is a little better now. Our next question is, do students need to wear masks that are school uniform colors? The answer is no. We do not have any requirements on the mask that the students do wear. We do know that Lands' End has developed masks for students, for families to purchase. You are more than welcome to purchase them through Lands' End, but at the same time, you are able to use any mask that is most appropriate for your child. Masks come in many different, sizes and shapes and whatnot. We certainly want your child to be comfortable. So certainly evaluate what mask would be best for your child.
Next question, will there be temp checks prior to entering the school? So because we want to make sure that the students kind of get that staggered entrance into the building, we are asking that the parents take the temperature before their child leaves home, but we will be spot checking as the students come into the classroom and then throughout the day. So we did purchase thermometers that are the no-touch thermometers. So we are asking and trusting the parents to check those temperatures before they come to school, but we will spot check throughout the day.
Our next question is, how quickly can a student obtain the webcam option or option 2 if they are sick or in quarantine? If a student is mandated to be in quarantine, certainly that is a transition that can happen immediately for that child. We have made adjustments to our staffing with the addition of our virtual learning specialists to be able to make that maneuver as quickly as possible for that child. We know that things are always rapidly changing. We know that things very unexpectedly pop up with COVID. So if it was a case where a student had to quarantine, please do know that they would be able to move into distance learning immediately.
Next question, which one is it that staff will be required to wear, a mask or a face shield, because there is a difference. Masks are required, face shield in addition to. So the reason that we would be wearing the face shield is specifically when we're teaching certain subjects. So when it comes to like speech language therapy or some of the reading comprehension or some of the social skills, it's important to be able to see kind of like the full face to learn some of those nonverbal cues that happen during instruction. So the staff will be expected to wear a mask, but there will be times where they need to use a face shield to help get that full, allow the students to see the full face. But if they go to try to work with the students kind of in a little bit of a smaller group or they come closer to the students than the social distancing requires, they will be expected to wear the mask.
Our next question is, will there be any outdoor activities? So again, referencing recess specifically, yes, recess will continue to be outside with the social distancing procedures in place. We will be sanitizing the entire play area after every recess period. But you can also expect that our teachers will be utilizing the outdoors as much as they can as well to take the educational learning outdoors. The answer is yes, absolutely.
Next question, how would PE be managed for the virtual students? So with PE, most likely it would be kind of like we did during virtual learning, where it would be like a grid or a bingo thing of activities that they can try. It would really depend on which sport or activity they are doing throughout that quarter. So it won't necessarily be like an actual like PE class where it's virtual like it is for the student learning. There will be adjustments that have to be made for PE.
Our next question is, who will be responsible for the sanitation of the playground after recess, classrooms, bathrooms, etc.? Please know that this is a very much a team approach within the school as we look to complete our routine sanitation procedures throughout the course of the school day. Our plant manager at both campuses is going to play a crucial role in the handling of this. both the actual sanitizing as well as the checking to ensure that the procedures are completed. So the plant manager will certainly be taking on things such as like the playground after recess and the periodic bathroom sanitation that will be happening throughout the course of the school day. There will be some responsibilities to put on our teachers and other staff members within the building to sanitize classrooms and any hardtop table spaces throughout the course of the school day. As students finish up an activity and prepare for the next, you're going to see teachers as well as students as well sanitizing their own workspaces. At the conclusion of each school day, we will be completing an entire building sanitation throughout the entire building and each individual classroom as well as therapy rooms.
Next question. What if we choose either option 1 or 2 and after a few weeks realize it is not working for the student? I realize we're being asked to push through the option, but is there any way that a switch can be made? Unfortunately, just with staffing issues, I think we're going to have to keep it at a quarter by quarter basis. We are choosing to do it by quarter instead of like a full semester or a full year. So we're asking that if you have some questions to help maybe have you determine what the best option is for you, I would definitely reach out to myself or Jason. But if you make a decision, we are going to have to hold you to that quarter expectation.
Our next question is in regards to our third campus. I'm going to allow Landy Davis to address this one.
This one says, now that you have introduced a principal for the third school, where is the school? And will the pandemic be affected by the opening? So we do have a third school. It is on the west side of Cleveland in Westlake. We have not made a formal announcement yet. Really just kind of a soft announcement that will be coming this fall. We are still planning to open in the fall of 2021 with grades kindergarten, first, and second grade in Westlake, Ohio. However, we know that with this pandemic, there are always things that are changing. And certainly this is subject to what could happen under this pandemic. However, right now we are proceeding to open in the fall of 2021.
So the next 2 questions talk about spot checking temperatures. So when we talk about spot checking, or if we check the temperature, so when we say spot check, it probably will be as the students are coming into the classroom, we're able to check the temperature as they arrive for the day. The spot checking during the day would really be just getting a classroom and the teacher just checks everybody in that classroom throughout the day. We are asking that parents check the child's temperature before they come to school in the morning, but then we will go ahead and check them as they come into the classroom and then periodically throughout the day, but it will be by class basis. We will not be selecting individual students to check randomly throughout the day.
Our next question is in regards to aftercare. Will aftercare continue for the same time duration as previously? Yes, you can expect aftercare will continue to run from 3 to 6 p.m. It will continue to be held within our gym setting at both campuses as well as outdoors. There will continue to be a play study component that we have had in place for the students. What you can expect is, at both campuses, when students are in aftercare, there are different stations for students to be working with things such as Legos and other play activities. One of the things that will be closely monitored is the rotation of those activities and what students are choosing to do throughout the course of that time period. Obviously, we want to minimize the amount of transitions that students are making throughout their playtime. So that would be something that we would be closely monitoring and helping students identify specific activities to play with.
Next question, have you piloted the webcam virtual learning with some parents to know how realistic and feasible virtual learning is? So the webcam option is very similar to what we had in the spring, because the webcam is available on the Chromebooks, and then we have the cameras that will be set up, whether it's through another Chromebook or digital camera for the live feed in the classrooms. The actual virtual learning is very realistic and feasible. I think the question would be more if you feel your student is really going to have that be the best option for them. They are going to have to be able to listen to the instruction that the students or that the teacher is having, like, virtually, but we will have the virtual learning specialist reach out to them in the afternoon to check for understanding and reteach if necessary. But it will be something that you'll have to determine if you think it's the best way for your child to learn during the day.
Our next question is, what about the Parent Action Committee? Will that still exist, and what will it look like? As we have taken a look here at the near future, we know that the Parent Action Committee has provided a tremendous amount of support for a number of different student activities, as well as family activities that we've been able to put on. Obviously, with some of the larger group activities, those are now put at a halt, and we certainly hope to resume those at a time that it is safe and permitted. But yes, the Parent Action Committee is still going to play a major role at both campuses. There's still a number of avenues that we can utilize the Parent Action Committee throughout our campuses. We do look for their support. While the support does need to look different, whether it's from a parent volunteer perspective or a family entertainment perspective, we will be doing things a little bit different. But you can fully expect that we'll continue to have a Parent Action Committee and utilizing them in a very creative nature.
And then two of the questions that kind of relate to each other is COVID-19 spreads effectively indoors. Are there changes done to prevent the spread indoors through air conditioning? And will there be a daily report or notification to parents if any COVID cases are reported in JB? So the conversation that we had with Suzanne through our Cuyahoga County Board of Ed, Lanny and I spoke to her extensively, most recently just this week. If we have the students in masks and social distancing and they're washing their hands and sanitizing their hands, we can effectively reduce that transmission. It's not necessarily airborne in the sense it is the droplets that are what is transmitting the disease. So the fact that the students are already pretty used to sanitizing their hands regularly during the school day anyhow, just because of how schools are. We make sure that they will be washing their hands when they come in the building, before and after lunch, periodically throughout the day, and before they leave for the day. So that will hopefully reduce any spread of the disease. And then we'll daily report a notification to parents. If there is a confirmed case of COVID, the Board of Health has already said that they will be working with us to let you know that a case has been found at the school and that these are the symptoms that you should be looking for. So if there is a confirmed case, then you will be notified. But it does have to be a confirmed case from the Board of Health.
We have a couple questions in regards to after-school activities. Know that after-school activities will continue if social distancing and our safety procedures can remain in place. Some of our after-school activities are put on by teachers and staff members within both of our campuses. And through some of those instances, we know that those procedures can remain in place. If it's an after-school activity that we are unsure or we know that those social distancing procedures cannot remain in place, those will be postponed to a later date.
So I know we are about 10 minutes over schedule. I apologize, but we really did want to be able to answer your questions. Jason and Jody, thank you so much. That was quick and succinct, and we appreciate the feedback. But really, for our kind of final next steps, we want to quickly kind of go over them. So thank you for attending the presentation. really here's what's next. If you have questions as you receive the live feed of this, as well as if you look at this presentation and you have further questions, please email your campus principal in order to obtain an answer. A reminder that a recording of this meeting will be emailed to you tomorrow. And please, please, please make your final selection by July 22nd. This helps us plan efficiently for the upcoming school year. We also prepare for a safe, productive launch to our school year, but please visit and follow us on social media as well as our website for any updates. We will do everything in our power to communicate with you as the changing situation continues to evolve. So please stay safe. God bless you all. And thank you for your trust and your patience during this time.